Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we have the new Tier 9 Dockyard French battleship, the Roussillon, in port to review for you guys today. She is supposedly a sniper with highly accurate guns, according to Wargaming, and she is the current Dockyard ship. There are 20 phases in the dockyard. You must grind out 18 of them and then buy 2 phases to get this ship. The grand total for which is, I believe, 6,000 doubloons. So each phase costs 3,000 doubloons to buy through if you want to buy through it, which I would recommend not doing. Or, of course, you can just buy the 2 phases for 6,000 doubloons. So all in all, pretty decent price for a Tier 9 premium ship on top of course, just the grind. This is what you get with the Roussillon Dockyard, including the Tier 6 French cruiser, premium cruiser, the Montcalm at the 10th phase of the Dockyard. In addition to this, you do also get a set of green economic bonuses, some coal, and some credits. I unfortunately didn't wait to receive my rewards until I got all the way through it. So you do get, again, those bits of rewards on top of what you see here. But is the Roussillon worth it? We're going to go through that in today's video. Absolutely massive shout out to the channel's Patreon supporters for making this review possible. I am not a CC, so I do not get this ship or, well, any of the ships you see reviewed here on the channel for free. We do have to acquire them with either the funds donated by the generous Patreon supporters or the ad revenue that the channel generates. So let's go ahead and take a look at the ship now that we're done thanking those Patreon supporters. Oh, if you want to become one of those Patreon supporters, make sure you check out the link in the description down below, and you can check out the Patreon site for the channel. All right, so the Roussillon. Well, this is the Flanders, if you haven't noticed, and more on that here in a moment. But yeah, this is a Flanders that has been up-tiered to Tier 9. It is a Tier 9 premium ship, so you do get the premium economic bonus on top of the bonus package that you get with the ship. So on top of the baked-in economic bonus, you get another 10% buff to the credits and 100% buff to the various XPs. And with completing the dockyard, you do get the war paint permanent camo, which is this guy right here. So you got the crew manning the rails, all the flags and such. And a pretty nice premium camo, I do say. There's some nice touches there with the crew. A bit fancier nameplates on the side of the ship. And that nice dark white camo on the superstructure and the turrets. But of course, I've just been running the standard camo on her like I do for these dockyard ships. But you do get that with the completion of the dockyard. Alright, so the ship itself now. Armor, very different from the Flanders. While it's the same model, the armor is most certainly not the same. 25mm bow and stern armor, very, very thin. So again, sniper, highly accurate guns, 25mm bow and stern. A lot of you guys are probably thinking, that's a French Slava at Tier 9. That's what many of us were led to believe, but again, more on that here in a moment. Yes, so 25mm stern bow and plate. I'm sorry, stern and bow, and then the stern and bow plating is also 25mm thin. Side is 32, not that nice 38 that the Flanders gets, but 32mm bulges, 32mm upper belts, 32mm deck armor, and the superstructure, the Citadel is just above the waterline, as you can see, but you do have this nice 350mm plating that comes down to protect it with a thinner 275mm strip below it. And then you have a 32mm bit of armor above that. So very thinly armored, of course, for a Tier 9 battleship. So yeah, that 25mm bow and stern, going to get overmatched by a lot at Tier 9. More than in the gameplay review section. Hit points also on the lower side, 72,450. This is with the flag, by the way. Without the flag, it is 69,400. So, funny number. But yes, on the lower side for a Tier 9 battleship HP as well. But not the lowest of the Tier 9 battleships. But down there for sure. 44% torpedo damage reduction, though. That is pretty nice. For your main battery guns, you have 9 406mm guns. Now, These guns are the French 16-inch guns. They do pack a punch when they connect. They do have good ballistics too, with the HE and AP coming out the tubes at 850 meters a second. Again, with the French ballistics, so they maintain that velocity very well over range. Now, you see that 31.7 second reload time there? That is with the reload module. Without the reload module, this has a 36 second base reload on 9 16-inch guns at Tier 9. Keep in mind, 9 16-inch guns at Tier 9, that is like the standard armament for most Tier 9 battleships. So, a lot of you are probably thinking, oh, okay, well, clearly, it's because of the accuracy of the guns. I mean, this is a highly accurate battleship according to Wargaming. More on that here in a moment. Maximum dispersion, 228 meters at 23.4 kilometers. That is with the dispersion module. And the AP shells do a maximum damage of 12,100. HE shells do a maximum damage of 6,100 with a 49% fire chance and 68 millimeters of armor penetration capability. You do have quite a bit of secondary guns, very much like the Flanders. You get 9 of the 152 millimeter secondary guns, which reload in 12 seconds. And then you get 24 of the 100 millimeter guns that they can barely pin superstructure, 17 millimeters of armor penetration with a 4-second reload time and a 6% fire chance per shell. You do get 2 charges of the standard airstrike, 10 kilometer range. A defense is up to 75 with 20 of the 25 millimeter AA guns, 32 of the 37 millimeter guns, and then the 100 millimeter guns are dual purpose along with the 152 millimeter guns. Maneuverability, the ship travels at 33.6 knots with the speed flag, and it does get an engine boost on top of that as well. It is a properly quick ship. 910 meter turning circle radius with a rudder shift time of 16.6 seconds. Consumables with a full build gets you down to 13.2 kilometers, which is pretty darn good for a Tier 9 battleship. Alright, for your consumables, you get your choice of spotter or fighter. You do get a main battery reload booster, which cuts your reload time down in half, which is pretty nice. And engine boost, which gives you a 50% buff to your maximum speed, which this will get you going 38 knots, which is pretty good with a speed flag. 4 repair parties, which regenerate 434 HP per second, runs for 30.8 seconds. And keep in mind, this is 4 charges, and that runtime is with the commander skill as well. Damage con runs for 16.5 seconds, again with the commander skill. For your modules, I am going with the main battery build, so of course the main armaments mod 1 to keep the main battery guns in the fight for as long as possible. Damage con mod 1 to get that fire chance down, because fire, well, that sucks, right? Aiming systems mod 1 because this is a sniper, so we want that 7% buff to our dispersion. Damage con mod 2 to quicken our flooding and fire recovery time, because, well, fires and floods suck. And then Concealment Systems mod 1 for a 10% buff to our concealment, and main battery mod 3 for that 12% buff to our reload time to get us down to a 31.7 second base reload time. I am running Philippe Avignon on my Roussillon, so this is the build that I'm running in the background if you were wondering. And again, it's a standard battleship build focusing on survivability, since the ship has pretty poor survivability base. So of course, prevent maintenance to reduce the chance of our modules becoming incapacitated. We are taking Grease the Gears because this, or like Brisk, would be the only skill that really makes sense here, for at least in my opinion, with the Roussillon. And I took Grease the Gears to for the turrets to keep up with the ship maneuvering with the engine boost going, because again, this is a battleship that can go 38 knots, and when you're turning at such speeds, it's very easy to outrun your turrets. Then of course, Adrenaline Rush to give us another 0.2% buff to our reload time of our armaments for every 1% of HP loss. So basically, as you take damage, your reload time gets faster. And with a ship as lightly armored as this one is, you're going to take damage. And with a reload as long as these main battery guns have, you're going to want to take this so you can, get that reload time down even faster. Of course, Emergency Repair Expert for additional charge of our damage con and a 10% buff to the runtime of our damage con and our heal. I'm sorry, another charge of our heal. It has the standard damage con. You don't get another charge of it, but you do get the buff to the runtime. And then Consummate Expert for another 10% buff to our consummate, because the stealthier you are, the easier it is for you to disengage, which is excellent when your ship as frail as the Roussillon. And then Fire Prevention Expert for 10% buff to our chance of catching on fire. And this limits the maximum number of fires on our ships from 4 to 3. So the less fires, the better. And lastly, Basics of Survivability for a 15% buff to our modular restoration time and our fire and flooding recovery times. So if something gets knocked out, it gets brought back online that much faster. And when you're on fire and you're flooding, it gets resolved that much faster. So that's less damage you are taking. So that, along with these flags, is what I'm of course running on the ship. We shall now transfer to a gameplay review section where a very calm voiceover Sea Lord will now talk to you. Yeah, so Wargaming lied. I don't know what in their vocabulary is accurate. Like, where is that? Like, what is accurate to you, Wargaming? Because the Roussillon is not. Like, literally right now on the game's website, on the article talking about the Roussillon, the first sentence under ship characteristics is, the Roussillon is armed with 9 46mm main battery guns with high accuracy. That is just not true. Now, we've seen this formula before with battleships. You know, take a battleship, up tier it, or, you know, change some stuff around on some same tier ships. You make the guns more accurate, give their shells better ballistics, but shave off, you know, the bow and stern armor and some of the armor in the midsection. Shave off a few thousand HP. Boom, you got a sniper. It's the Slava formula. We've seen this happen time and again with ships in the game. And it's a pretty good formula, right? You give up some survivability for some better accuracy on the guns, and Bob's your uncle. You get a pretty good ship for that job. And that's what the Roussillon sounded like in its initial dev blog. That's what it sounds like in the article describing it in game. But fellas, it ain't that. It is not a French Slava, like many of us were led to believe. It's a formula that I think they're very close to getting something out of with the Roussillon, but it's just not there yet. So the game you're watching in the background, I have that exact same build that we just went over in port on my Roussillon in this background match. And for those of you that were there for Friday night's live stream, you guys got to witness, you know, the questioning of my sanity in real time as we were going through this, because nothing about the guns you see in the background, nothing about them are accurate. Like, what? What are you getting at, Wargaming? These are not accurate guns. They're not consistent at all by any stretch of the imagination. And it's like, okay, this thing sounds like a sniper and all the literature surrounding it, but it's not. Like, this is sold to us as a French battleship with accurate guns, but a really long reload in exchange for that accuracy. But you have a reload booster to where if you do get some juicy broadside, you can pop it and have, you know, a couple of quick follow-up shots. Because with how long the reload is on the main battery guns, you really only have like one quick follow-up salvo. I mean, like, if you've got like, you know, adrenaline rush going and you pop it, you know, the millisecond your first salvo ends, you can maybe squeeze 2 follow-up shots in there if you got a decent amount of adrenaline rush going. But normally it's, you know, just for one quick follow-up shot. And that's how the ship is kind of sold to us. But this ain't it. This is not it. So keep in mind, this is like just the Flanders up-tiered and retooled, right? But yet the guns still feel awfully Flanders-like. They feel a little bit more accurate. And by a little bit, I do mean just a little bit. Because, like, these are, like, this isn't what I would think accurate, high degree of accuracy would look like, right? Which, I know I'm kind of stuck on this, but, like, this is what the ship was sold to us as, right? Like, this is not what we thought it was going to be. But anyway, yeah, so what they did was, in testing, they knocked its Sigma down from 2.0 to 1.7, which is not good. And it has battle cruiser dispersion, but it doesn't look like battle cruiser dispersion because the sigma is so dang low, right? If this had battleship dispersion, this would be god awful. Like the battle cruiser dispersion is the one thing that's like saving it from being just absolutely terrible, right? So because of that, what you'll find with the Roussillon is that you might be hitting the targets, but because of the dispersion, you're just, you're nicking like the superstructure or some of the extremities, and oddly enough, the good ballistics, are leading to a bunch of overpins because, you're just nicking the bow or the stern. You're not really hitting the center of the ship that much. So you're not really doing that much damage per salvo with the ship. Now, what is nice is that when you do find a broadside target, the vertical dispersion is like kind of good enough to where, yeah, you'll probably get most of those shells to land somewhere, on the side of the ship, if they're perfectly flat broadside. Keep in mind too, these are only 16-inch guns. They don't have the crazy ballistics of like the Slava, right, to where they're 16-inch guns, but they hit like 17 or 18-inch guns, right? It's not quite that crazy. But they are French 15-inch guns, and yeah, when you got something's broadside, you are probably going to ruin its day. But again, not to the degree or to the consistency you would expect for, a ship that gives up its bow and stern armor and a healthy amount of its hit points for that. And the reload booster is really, really the saving grace of the ship, because it does allow you to, get a couple of salvos off pretty quick. As long as you have the reload mod, right? But again, you're still getting, really like one quick follow-up shot, and that's it. And like you can get like maybe most of your next salvo loaded, but you still got quite a few seconds before it gets fully loaded and you're ready to fire. And usually by then the target ship's already turned out because you've shot at them twice and probably missed a fair few shells and nicked them with a shell or two. So it's really frustrating that it's not really the ship that was sold to us. Now, by the formula almost working, I'm referring to the fact that with the reload module, the ship does have a 31.7 second reload, which isn't really terrible for a tier 9 ship with 16-inch guns. If it was, like Iowa accurate, right? Or closer to a more normal tier 9 battleship's dispersion, right? But it's not. The dispersion's not really that great. And it's really the reload booster doing a lot of the heavy lifting that allows you, to sneak in an additional salvo here and there that kind of keeps you in the game. If they had like either dropped its like 1.8 or 1.9 sigma, or shaved like 2 seconds off the base reload time, I think that would have been a lot better, because the French ballistics are really nice. And at range, it's not really that hard to lead the ships because of the good French ballistics. So at range, it is comfortable in terms of like, trying to lead the target. It's just the dispersion, the accuracy really lets you down. So if you'd shaved like 2 more seconds off, or gave it like maybe like 1.75 or 1.85 sigma, I think it'd be a lot more comfortable of a ship. Because keep in mind, like, you're trading 6 seconds of reload for what? French ballistics? But like, I can go play the Alsace and get French ballistics and still get, a 32mm bow and stern. You're not only trading the reload, I almost forgot about that. You're trading, battleship armor off for battle cruiser armor for French 16-inch guns and a reload booster. Like, give me a 30-second reload and normal battleship armor, and I'll take the lower HP. And in fact, give me a 30-second reload. Give me the Flanders up tier to tier 9 with slightly more accurate guns, and I'll take that over this ship. Because what's really annoying is that, like, with the guns that you have, it feels like it's set up to be like a mid-range ship. So, like, if you give me Flanders with more accurate guns, I'll take that and play that at mid-range at tier 9 over this ship all day. Because that's what this ship feels like it wants to be. but it's not, and it can't be because you have 25mm bow and stern and way less HP than Flanders. Oddly enough, a tier 8 ship. This is a tier 9 ship. So yeah, it's just not what Wargaming advertised it as. It kind of works, so it's not terrible, but it's not what they told us it was, and it's a Dockyard ship, and it's just kind of okay, not really fantastic. It's not garbage like I've seen some posts talking about it, because it is still very fast. With the speed boost going, you go 38 knots. The turrets can keep up when you're maneuvering, so that's very nice. And yeah, when the guns do work and get their stuff together, they do hit pretty hard. And yeah, if someone is broadside, you're going to ruin their day with the reload booster. But, in every other situation, when you're not doing those specific things, it's just kind of like, oh, it's a mediocre tier 9 battleship. But it's the Dockyard, so you got to go through you got to go through the grind through the combat missions, complete the stages, and then pay 6,000 doubloons to get it. But it is still a tier 9 premium ship. It still is just an kind of okay, kind of mid tier 9 premium battleship. So I wouldn't really stress about getting it. And because of that, because it's just a mid tier 9 premium battleship, it gets a 5 out of 10 for me. And keep in mind, 5 is, average, because it feels kind of average-ish once you kind of get the vibe of it, which for me, it was like playing it for 16, 17 kilometers, looking for those broadside shots, and, dunking on ships for those reasons. And that kind of, it's okay at that. But you can't really, do battleship things because you don't have the HP, you don't have the armor for it. You are fast, so you can run away. That's kind of nice. And the guns, you're going to be infuriated quite a lot by the guns. I mean, I guess if you played French ships, you're kind of used to that, right? Because they have that wonky dispersion. But this is supposed to be the accurate one, which is why it's kind of disappointing, right? But I don't know what they were going for. I can see, 2.0 Sigma on these guns perhaps being a little bit too much. But, what happened to you dropping down to like 1.85 or 1.8 rather than 1.7, right? That just seems kind of wild. There's no reason for you to drop what you're doing and grind away, your holidays to get this ship. You can pass on this and it's fine. But I mean, like, if you're just playing the game and you just need to buy the last 2 missions, I think it's worth it because it's still only 6,000 doubloons for a tier 9 premium ship. And it is a ship, that's out of a Santa container in the future, right? And it is still only 6,000 doubloons for a tier 9 premium ship. Tier 9, what was this, a legendary ship or whatever? It's the red epic, a tier 9 epic ship, right? So it's a rare ship, right? It's going to be a rare ship in the future, So you do take that out. You do take that slot out of the future super container or Santa container. So there is that. But yeah, there's no real need to like rush out and drop what you're doing to grind it right now. It's just pretty mid. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on the Roussillon. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful Saturday and wonderful rest of your weekend. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.